So Miss Gwen, you're up. You're still up.
Yes. It is now time for our pagan panel. This is where you have people from various backgrounds. I would like to continue to do this every year. I think it's great to get information out to the community, and especially for the newcomers who may not know exactly where they fit in, but might have something that they can connect to you, and maybe you can guide them to where they need to go. So take it away, Joe.
Alrighty. Well, I think probably our best option is to just go around the group and let's go ahead and introduce ourselves and what you're bringing to the panel. Aeson, start with you.
All right, I'm Aeson Knight. When we look at my path, I've technically been trained in three different paths, but that would technically make me eclectic. But you know me, I'm the super overachiever. So I was raised Romney, trained in Alexandria, and then got tired and wanted to take a respite and trained in another tradition that is Gardnerian based. And then I said, okay, that was cute, and my community needed me back, so I rejoined the pagan community as an eclectic, and now I teach Wicca and all around Wicca.
All right, and Mo.
Yep. So I was actually born and raised in a Muslim tradition, but I never kind of felt that that fit me. And so quietly I practiced witchcraft. And my mom was very forgiving. She kind of knew what was up, and she was a huge hippie herself, so she was cool with it. And then later in life, I decided I wanted to see what was out there in the vein of formal training, even though I'd read many books. So I decided to join the Cabot Kent Hermetic Temple, which is a witchcraft order based out of Salem that was established by Lori Cabot. And I still belong to that. I'm a priestess of that order and very proud to be so. And I also try to help mentor and guide people who are finding that like this is a path that they are walking, and maybe kind of being someone there for those who, like me really felt that in themselves but didn't always have a tool or a place or a person to go to talk to. So I try to, as much as I can locally around where I live in Morgantown, be that for them.
All righty, and last but certainly not least.
Father, can you hear me? I don't know if
A little light on the sound.
Okay, give me one.
There we go. Getting better.
Father Tom Artist, I am very eclectic to say the least. I pastor Holy Sacrament Catholic Church in Chapmanville, also the high priest of Coven of the Eternal Logos, Circle of the Eternal Logos. Grew up with grandparents that were powwow doctors, but we didn't claim that because we were Christians, so we just called it, using the power of God to do things. Kind of trained in Gardnerian Wiccan, kind of more leaned toward the path of just Christo-paganism, kind of opened myself up. Went the route of the Pentecostal church for a long time because, that let me lay hands on people, that let me pray for people, that let me, you got to use all the power that you had, only you were doing it properly within the confines of the church. And then finally, I just said, fuck all that. It's time to be who I am. So now I walk my path and I try to teach and let people learn. And I'm just proud to be part of the pagan community in West Virginia, finally, after 40 years of hiding most of it from most people. I can now just be who I am and nobody can say nothing. And if they want to say something, oh well.
All right.
I love it.
Okay, so we are taking questions from the audience. about the different paths and different things that occur in paganism. And I'll go ahead and throw out the first question. What makes your tradition or path different from what you see out there?
I'll jump on that first if I can, because mine's probably the most diverse and the most different. As a Christian or as a Christian community, we have used magic since the great magician Jesus gave us the power on Pentecost to do so. And we've used it long before that because in our belief, God is a supreme being who is known by all names. I believe, of course, God and goddess are both the same, just male and female version of the same person. So the power has always been there. But for us in our path, we have to fight a lot of stigma. We have to fight a lot of, I mean, we all do, but particularly in the church because, you're kicked out. First thing you bring out a Ouija board, you're gone. You tell them, oh, the tarot card said, no, you're gone. But what I try to do, especially in teaching, is just let people know that to me, witchcraft is not a religion. Witchcraft is a practice. Witchcraft is part of who I am. It's inside of me. And if I can use that to your good, use that to help you, bring your power out. Be who you are. If you don't want to call yourself a Christian witch, call yourself a Christian. If you don't want to call yourself a Christian, call yourself a witch. In my tradition, whatever you want to call yourself, just be who you were created to be and use what you've been given to use. And that's going to start making a better world.
Okay. And coin flip, I'm going to go to Aeson.
All right. I am. How does mine differ? For me, it's different lenses. If I'm using straight old-fashioned Romney, it's a lot more down and dirty. And less ceremonial. However, if I'm using Alexandrian and working at Alexandrian, there's a lot of ceremony behind it. And there's a lot of, dress it up, fix it up, make it right. There is order in this, and you have to do it right, that order. And if not, you have to back up and start over. I have been in ritual for 4 hours before because someone couldn't remember that the East is called first. And that, and then in the eclectic Gardnerian tradition, the difference was that we didn't do East, we done North. But then I saw so many similarities through the paths. What about you, Mo?
So for me, I know with the Cabot tradition, we look at witchcraft as science. It's a science that is understood by the same set of principles as other sciences, which would be proof and trial and error. But the proof we use is the laws of Hermeticism, and trial and error. Well, that energy takes the least resisted path, and if you direct and what you see, what you are focused on is where that energy will go. So training your brain through meditation and practice with that helps you grow your power. And so that's what we do. And I know a lot of other traditions do that as well. But then to compare it to outside traditions such as, Eastern practice believes that enlightenment needs to be achieved over a period of several lifetimes. And I did a lot of small study and trial and error with a lot of different places and religions, and I believe that I learned more from magic than I did from any other practice, because it's like pouring rocket fuel on the energy of your body and the enlightenment and knowledge that you can achieve. It's like a current that you get, and once you have it, you can pass it to others, but it is nonetheless a huge responsibility and power. You always have to be very careful what you say. You have to be very careful how you say it and what you are thinking of when you say it. And it's a balance. So there's that. But I love magic, and I love just being a witch because it offers a freedom to put your own fingerprint on your working, because everybody can do magic. They do it every day. And there are so many different traditions and practices because there are so many different people, and everybody has their own unique physiology, which is like your fingerprint, like your DNA. And so what may work really well for me, you being just as talented, if not more powerful in your own way, practice, and it's not as successful if you do it my way. You have to do it your way. I love to know like that it illustrates and pulls out that individuality in people, because people need to feel that. They need to feel special, and they need to feel that the power comes from them, because otherwise it doesn't matter where you're aiming and what you're doing, there's going to be weakness in your magic.
Okay.
So
And we do have our first question. I believe, Father Tom, this one is meant for you specifically, though if anyone else wants to jump in afterwards. Is powwow medicine still in use today?
Absolutely, especially among the Pennsylvania Dutch. It also incorporates itself and has found its way into Appalachian granny magic, Appalachian traditions. There are still people, especially in Heartland, Pennsylvania, that I know that are open practitioners that have offices that practice. But a lot of families that came up in it still practice. They just, like I said, some have gone the route where that's not what we're going to call it, but we're going to do it because that's. But yes, it's still very much alive today. Not like it used to be, not as grand as it used to be, but in this area, especially this region, yeah, it's still very much alive.
Okay.
I'm going to chime in on that one. You'll see the influences of powwow magic into any folk magic, because I got some training in powwow magic when studying some traditions, and I went, hold it, I know this. I've used this. I learned this back when I was, working with Grandma and working with Romney Works, and I know where they got that from. Like the brick dust thing, and yeah, I make jokes all the time. I need a thicker Bible for the next person who comes and tells me they're cursed. So yeah, I think powwow is still very much practiced. I think it's in a lot of our roots in all the occultic traditions, as there's powwow in there. It's just what shade of the quilt piece are you?
Okay. All right. And our next question is, what is the main thing to remember when doing rituals?
I'll chime in first if that's okay. With rituals, you have to remember, so it does vary depending on whether you're doing a ritual for the turning of the wheel, or you are calling a magical circle for doing a spell. The main thing to remember is to directly state your purpose. Also, you can do rituals just as an honor to a deity that you personally feel connected or work with. And that you should always make sure that you research and know what sort of things that particular deity might like for their offerings, and what sort of words. Words are very important. Magic is inside the words. So that's always an important thing to remember. And definitely just do what you feel compelled to do. It's really important that you put your own personality into everything, believe in it, and know that it's accurate, correct, and it is so. You have to be very sure of yourself. A very developed sense of, I guess, self-esteem is really important for any witch.
Okay.
I think I would just to throw in one little thing, echo kind of what you just said. Intention, intention, intention. The most important thing in ritual is intention. If you're not putting intention into it and you're just going out there doing something to be doing it, what in the world are you releasing? Intention, intention.
And I will remind every pagan and witch and anyone else unless it is a second degree initiation ritual, the gods, and even then, the gods will remind you, you are human. You will work 3-4 months planning out this detailed, oriented ritual. And I promise you, within the first 15-20 minutes, the gods will go, oh, you got this down pat, do you? Zap, complete blank screen. And if you don't laugh and at least go with it, you're going to get there. But if you're sitting there all serious and worried about you, if it's the or than or the or though or whatever, they will crack you up to remind you that magic moves freely and that you are human. You have not been promoted to deity.
Okay. Our next question is, do you incorporate astrology?
I'll simply say no. I do not understand astrology. I wish I could figure it out, but it's like math. I failed math in school. Astrology's way over my head, unless it's written in the newspaper and then I read it and say, okay, that's good.
Okay. And we'll go to Mo.
For the purpose of planning certain things, I prefer to use astrology because it might be that I'm a woman. It might be that I, am a type A personality, or maybe a combination of both. But for myself, I find if I know that planetary aspects are correct and that the energy that I'm calling on is particularly powerful for that moment because of the way the planets are aligned, I will definitely make sure that I especially the moon, but always other planets too. I will definitely use astrology and their positions within what I'm doing. Yeah, I do.
Okay. And I heavily follow astrology, especially planetary hours, moon phases, sun phases of the astrology, because like Mo said earlier, magic follows the easiest path. Let's make sure that trench is wide and deep.
Okay. And from being in your classes, or anyone who has been, it does come up with the planetary hours. And it's more so, as if I understood correctly from that, is more so understand what you're working within. Don't necessarily focus on the perfect moment to do something. Just understand what you're working in. All right. And what has been, our next one is, what has been the most difficult part of being pagan priests or priestesses? Aeson, we'll go back to you.
All right. My hardest part is I'm very opinionated. I'm very focused and very much, I will do what I say. But when the gods say, hey, you, shut up and do it, or your path is now going left. You thought that was nice. You went and studied whatever, that's nice, but we need you over here. I think the hardest is letting that self-will step out and go, okay, you got to follow the divine.
Okay.
I think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Father Tom.
I think the most difficult part for me would just be to keep everything in focus and everything on track. We live in such a scattered world that, when you're maintaining jobs and you're maintaining your priesthood, it's just time and energy. That's the most demanding part. I wouldn't trade it for anything on earth, because my nature is to help, so I'm going to be a help any way I can, but it gets tough sometimes.
Alrighty, and Mo. I think Mo may have had a little internet stuff there.
There she is.
There
Oh,
she
no,
is.
I got it. I got it. No,
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. No. So, for me, I feel like it's mainly because the nature of how people uh, do tend to expect miracles. And if you don't understand that it doesn't matter what level of learning you're at, you can always learn more. And it doesn't matter what level you're at, you can never do miracles. And so that's difficult. And also taking the time out, because so many demands, like the father said, so many demands on your time, and to try to parse out the ones that you know that you can certainly help, and then the ones that you know that you have to take a break and have some self-care and recharge your batteries, just because you cannot help everybody and have enough energy left for yourself and your own health. And that's been really, because I'm a Cancer, and my natural thing is to just, do everything for everybody, because I feel very deeply with everybody and their plight, and I don't ever want to fail anyone. But sometimes I just have to learn to say no, I can't right now, or that's not something, that expectation might be a bit high. That's been really hard. It's kind of like, not at all, but like, the best way I can illustrate it is, say you're a doctor and you have to say, hey, I know you wanted this result, but you're getting this result because this result's not going to happen. And so that's a hard thing to have to say to people, and it breaks my heart when their hearts break. So for me, that's very difficult. That's probably the most difficult.
Well, and that's something that really fits in with the powwow. Is the powwow we'll call it tradition? Is they never say I can't. They'll say I'll try,
Right.
and that's something to be
I
very
need to learn that.
Alrighty. And next question is, do you follow deities? We'll go back to Father Tom.
Yes. And I'm going to commit the cardinal sin of paganism right now. I am a monotheist. But saying that, I believe the source is all that we need. I believe if we follow the Greek gods, we're following the source. If we follow the Norse gods, we're following the source. Personally, in my life and in my teachings, I follow Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as the masculine, and Mother, Maiden, Crone in the feminine. I follow both sides. I'm comfortable praying to both sides, because sometimes we need Mother, sometimes we need Father, sometimes we need Crone, because God knows we got to deal with so many people that she has to kick ass and take names. So yes, I follow deity, although in my path it's one supreme being, but it's expressed in all 680,000 Hindu deities, to me, are just the expression of who we need them to be as the one source of all. So yes, I do.
Okay. And Mo.
So I agree with Father Kevin about source, but for me, I think I definitely need the gods and the goddesses. So I follow them from across the board, different pantheons, because I feel like they are the cognizant part of source. Source itself is just an energy, and a creational energy that once its job is done, it's there, it's a link, but it doesn't have sentience, so to speak, that we can understand. That's just my belief. So for me to speak into the ether and harness energy, I need to talk to this god or goddess, or this god or goddess. And I have those that I feel very personally attached to, and I tend to work with those the most. But you'll find that you'll gather a little like for myself anyways, I have a stable of steady deities that I work with, gods and goddesses that I work with, that they correspond through other so like through other pantheons. There's their same mirror in other pantheons, and so it's more the aspect of the consciousness that is I'm speaking to help me and guide me, and then that's who I thank and give offerings to.
And I've always seen it kind of, speaking towards Philo Thomas's thing, is I've always kind of seen it like departments. The source is the whole company, but I don't need to talk to customer service. I need packing and shipping, or I don't need to talk to merchandising. I need this area. Personally, I'm very much a son of the Morgon. I'm very much great friends with Hecate. I'm very much a good worker with Bridget and Bree. And if I really have to go for it, I will go to Shiana and be like, hey, Ramen Mama, come here. I need some help because I've done messed something up.
Okay. And so next question is, do you know how close is Crowley's path to Hermetic? And we'll go
back. Sorry.
No. Jump in.
It's just the basic. It was the basis of his practice. Everything that branched out from there followed that that line of consciousness. And what's interesting about it is everybody understands the Hermetic order as Hermes Trismegistus. However, another aspect of him and was Thoth. Thoth also, the psychopomp from ancient Egyptian pantheon, same person. So he likes to visit. He's very much a student of understanding for the way that energy works on this planet and this plane. So I do believe that that was Crowley's base. Yes, if you read any of his books, it's shot throughout. Yeah, especially pendulum theory and things like that.
Okay, and Aeson, I'll let you go ahead and go. I just saw the hamster just kind of fell off the wheel for a minute. Like, I don't even know where to start.
Well, it's because I have probably what is called an unpopular opinion of Aleister Crowley. He is famed, and so popular media likes to make him the beast, the most evilest man in the world. He really wasn't. What he was, and from my viewpoint, is he was the experimenter. He was the one taking this supposedly dead scripture, supposedly non-active, haven't been used in 100-year spells, supposedly dead techniques, and going, all right, let's see if this will work. Does this still work? Does that still work? Does this work? Does that work? And if anybody has ever been an experimenter or to experiment, you don't want people in the room if you're going to see if actually bleach and ammonia mixed together kills you. So, of course, you want to paint yourself as Mr. Evil, terrible, evil person, when it's like, no, I just don't want people around me so I can go and see if, this deck of tarot cards will actually predict the future, or if I can see if this technique will allow me to control that human.
Okay. And Father Tom.
I think they did a great job. I tend to, I don't know, Crowley he's still a mystery to me. I'm still going there, still learning, so I can't say much there, but.
Okay. And I do want to add in here that the house that he done most of his experiments in are still seeing activity. So that tells us that something he done that maybe didn't go right is still producing effect.
Excuse me.
Well, that's got to add a whole dimensional layer. Or it also be the interconnection of all the things that were done. Like you've got layers there.
Mm-hmm.
And is it the interaction between the layers, or could one figure out like the one thing? Sorry, I'm just adding in questions now.
Well,
Good point, though. Very good point.
yeah.
It's like
I just
when
wanna-
you take your soda cup and run it down the line. Like, what is that going to taste like?
Yeah, really.
All these magical things in this one spot. What is that going to do?
I kind of visualize it like taking a cauldron and just going through the fountain drinks and just get all of them. And like, okay, let's see what
And
happens.
then adding magic.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, while we're
I
between
like it.
questions, I just wanted to acknowledge Donna Donovan over there real quick. Setting boundaries is key. That is the key to life, sweetheart. Oh my God, I have had to learn, and I'm still learning to set boundaries. You know, I still have people come to my window at 2 o'clock in the morning, knocking on it, needing something. No, baby, I'm asleep. Go away. Thank you. And yes, Mo, I agree.
Yeah.
That is the greatest lesson to learn in life. Is
100%.
set boundaries.
Hey, Father Tom, tell him to come see Night Shift.
Yeah, we get upset when you knock on the door at like 10 a.m.
Tauruses. So that I can have boundaries.
Okay.
All right, our next question is, what is your favorite magical tool to work with? And I think we'll start with Aeson. Like, I'm seeing thoughts. I see thought bubbles. Like, I can't pick.
Well, because I'm sitting here with what's on my table, because my altar and my desk are the same. Yeah, I'm not that set up. My favorite magical tool to work with is probably one that's losing favor because I haven't seen it in a pagan store in forever, and it's my oil lamps. You got a problem, you go in the lamp, or you go into the cauldron and then get put in the lamp after you've been burned.
Okay. All right, and Mo, let's go to you.
The bell. I really like the bell. I think ringing a bell at my altar with my statues and just giving an offering kind of just calls attention and lets them know that, I'm acknowledging them for the day and I'm giving them something. Sometimes I go around my shop and I ring my bell just to get rid of anything like the sound is so huge that just not the sound of a bell, but sound in general, vibration in general. It's what the world is made up of. And so I feel like that is the chalkboard eraser sometimes for stuff that you just ring your bell and that clear bell will kind of just clear the space or draw attention to whatever you want to call in. And so I really like the bell.
Okay.
This question is kind of like asking the fat kid which donut he likes in the bakery. Wow. My favorite, yeah, that's it. But I can't narrow it down. Has to be tarot cards. I'm going to say myself is my favorite magical tool, but tarot cards because you can have fun with them, but it's also serious. You're also working, but sometimes I just mix them up to see what's going on, and sometimes I just like to blow people's mind by just letting them see what's there. But that would probably be my favorite tool so far, aside from myself, because we are the greatest magic tool there is.
Very great point. Our next question is, why do you think all gods or deities allow so much pain and suffering for us? Or if you don't believe in God, is it because of human suffering? So I think let's just go ahead and agree we're going to go with deities in general, plural or singular. And let's go back to Father Tom.
This is a question that spans every religion there is. I'm asked all the time, why does God allow suffering? I don't think God so much allows suffering as we choose suffering. We're human beings. We have free will. We control our destinies. Bad things happen. You know, we live in a beautiful world, but a shit world. I believe God helps us, but I believe God or Goddess, the gods sometimes have to teach us something. And it may not necessarily be something bad, but as a human, we perceive it as suffering. Yeah, there are things out there. There's tornadoes, there's disasters, there's children locked in cages at the border. Those things are because of human evils. I mean, simply put, humans have the capacity for the greatest evil and disaster there is. And I believe sometimes God's just say, hey, I gave you the choice. Now you made it.
Okay. And Mo.
So I agree with what the father said, but I also think too that it's really a matter of going back to the fact that we are all, everybody is doing magic whether they know it or not. And so if you're speaking things aloud with a certain direction in mind, or you don't necessarily know what you're asking for or doing, you're getting exactly what you're asking for. Like, say you were wanted to study magic and you said, I wish I just had the time to study magic. Be careful. You may not have meant that to be a spell, but now it is. And whatever is easiest for the universe to do, for your energy to flow through, will be what happens. You'll get what you want. So say you said, okay, I wish I could study magic, but I just don't have the time. You could lose your job, and then all you have is time. You could go to jail, then all you have is time, you know. So I don't think people are understanding like that they have to choose their words carefully even when they don't realize that they do. And so most of it is brought on by just careless words, careless thoughts, and careless actions. It's always the person who has the closest, like it's kind of like Occam's razor. The most obvious solution presented is the one that is probably true. And the most obvious solution is not that the gods are like singling you out because they hate you or you piss them off, which sometimes they do, but only if you're working with them and you don't do what they do what you promised them you would do. And especially in like African traditions, like, hey, I did what you wanted me to do, but give me my offering, that kind of thing. But for most people, it's just that they are putting out an intention without knowing, I think. And it's just getting back to them in the quickest way, the easiest way, because it was not focused properly.
And I have a different viewpoint than both. I have the viewpoint that we all came down here to learn something. Sometimes that learning something and we're also teaching something. And sometimes those lessons are hard. So yeah, there's pain and there's suffering. But that's us either learning a lesson or teaching a lesson, because sometimes the best teaching is to show someone how to do it. And then the other side of that is we don't always get that lesson, so we get to repeat that lesson a few times.
Okay. And I'm having to. Oh no, actually I don't. I know someone who did a blood binding spell to keep someone bound to them. Can that person be the only one to undo it? So we'll start back with Aeson and work our way around.
Blood binding spells. These are a little bit of a, oh great, you got into it. One of the two has to do it. Either the person that's chained to them or the one that chained them. But no, it doesn't have to be the other side. Okay? But when there's been a mix of that, you have to question the practitioner, how it was done. It's like looking at exactly what it is, which is rope. They've took rope and tied the person to them. How do you undo the rope? Is what you're basically asking us. Mo, you want to hop in?
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like a Gordian knot. If you don't know how it was done, you can't unpick the knot. And the other thing is, like, the one thing I would differ from is another powerful magician could get involved, a witch could get involved, and as long as they knew how it was done, and if there was some tangible, like, relic of the spell, which normally those sorts of spells will have something, like something buried somewhere, something hidden somewhere. If you find that and get rid of it in the appropriate manner, depending on how that spell was worked, you can definitely break the spell if you're not a party involved. Aside from that, it has to be one of the parties involved. But it also can be exercised by extreme focus and the use of magic, like certain herbs and different practices and rituals, and that can get rid of these sorts of things, because they're against the natural order. It's against the natural order, and most witches will tell you that they will not do spells that force someone else's will. It's not natural, and it does take enormous cost on everybody involved. So yeah, it can be undone, but it's difficult.
Okay. And Father Tom?
I agree with Mo. I have actually had to undo for a couple of people, and it's the most draining thing you've ever. Oh, it can be scary sometimes. But easiest way, of course, is the one who cast or the one who is involved. But like she said, yeah, it can be undone. But if you don't know what you're doing, don't play with blood magic, please, unless you're sure of what you're doing, because that can ruin someone. That can kill someone. I mean, we have that power. It can be undone, but it's going to be a hell of a lot harder to undo than it is to do. So be careful.
That brings up a really good point. So I'll add that in as a background and just jump in as you feel need. Because Father Tom brings up the point of don't do it unless you know what you're doing. So when would be a situation that would be an appropriate route to go?
So can I field that for just a second?
Sure.
Blood magic in general can be very beneficial. I know I myself have used blood magic in my plants and growing plants. I've used blood magic to help to heal. There are positive because blood is life. So if you say you're growing something, you take life from the earth, you should appropriately thank the earth for giving blood back. Now, being a woman, that's easy for me, but for some of us, it's not, but using your own blood. Yeah. But, and things like that, but there are appropriate uses for it. But again, it can be very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. It can not only kill the person you are doing the magic for, it can kill you. It can kill you.
Right.
It can kill you slowly and grossly. Like, trust me, it's not fun.
Well, and I'll hop in there on you and chime in with you. If blood magic is one of those higher level magics you shouldn't be doing, unless you know what you're doing. And binding spells, I know people pass those around like Tic Tacs, but can we stop that? We don't need to be handcuffing people to you, because that's what the practitioner is doing, is handcuffing that person or that energy or that situation to you. And so no, that's not something to play with. And I saw in the comments that the person that asked this is actually the one that's been tied up or cuffed. Go see a practitioner, a real practitioner, like trace their freaking training or lineage. and they can work you through it. But very few will listen until they're sure you want that done. Because again, it's going to be hard on both of you. Because it's like tree branches. If you tie them together, they'll grow together.
Yeah,
Okay.
and my only thing with that is when the proper time to use it. I would view that the same way I would view. Oh God, I'm coming from the back side of it here, not the good beneficial side, but the back side, coming from like a capital punishment kind of mindset. That would be the only time I would use something that strong, is if I am 100% sure that is the only way I can accomplish what needs to be done, and I've exhausted every other source. And then when my hands are tied to that point, then that's when I know it's time to go a little beyond. I don't like that kind of magic per se for other people. I work things for myself. I'd rather do things for myself that could bring harm than I would someone else. That's just me. But I think it's kind of one of those. This is the very last straw. This is last option. But now on the beneficial side, like I've made blood oaths within religion and within my context of commitments to God. So, the good side, I'm okay with what you're doing. If you're coming around the back door, know where you're at and know why you're there.
Okay. All right. And the next one is hopefully an easier one, but then again, favorite tool, it could be in the same boat. So what is your, do you have a favorite pagan author? And we'll go back to Father Tom and start that back around.
I'm the typical. I think my absolute favorite that I have read so far is Adler. I love Adler. Margot is wish, but I like anybody. I like to read anything. So if I'm browsing through the bookstore or I'm looking through my Kindle and somebody, I'm gonna give everybody a try, and then I'm gonna look at them and say, okay. But I think probably Gardner and Adler and Cunningham. I have to say I like most of Cunningham's stuff, but then again, their authors is very niche. It has to be something you like, or else you're not going to agree with them, even if they're a good author.
Okay. All right, and Aeson.
Let's see. Of course, Dorothy Morrison, love her work. Lori Cabot, yes, I know I stole that from you, Mo. Love her work. But I also love a lot of the work of her founders. Gerald Gardner, Alexander Saunders, Maxine Saunders. I always mess her name up. It's Gerald Gardner's second high priestess. A lot of people put her as the first high priestess. She's the one that formed the Unicornian thing. And it's hard to get her works right now. It's been hard to get her works for about 30 years. High priestess of the Brick of Rock Coven. Anybody jump in and help me out here?
Crickets. We have crickets. Crickets.
Give me a minute. I'll have to pull it.
Okay. All right. And Mo.
Definitely Lori Cabot, which, by the way, since she's also a founder, one of the only originals living still. But Lori, and I really love Morgan Daimler, and I really love DJ Conway, and I do enjoy Cunningham somewhat. And also there were 2 books written. Now I don't know if he's written other books, but and they're not necessarily books on witchcraft per se, but they're books on how energy works. And it is Drunvalo Melchizedek, and he wrote this 2-volume set on harnessing energy and using the light body, which is awesome. And they were called The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. Those were great ones. And then the last one I really think I enjoy is Oh my gosh, now I just forgot what I was going to say. I can't remember. Oh well.
Doreen Valiant.
That was your
Okay.
author?
Yeah, that was the author, Doreen
Awesome.
Valiant, the writer of the Wiccan Raid.
There we go. All right. We are, I believe, running low on time. So right now I am going to just kind of pick one at random. And that'll probably close us out, I do believe. And let's see. Well, no. What is your platform? Do you have a cause? And we'll start with Aeson.
My current cause is to bring the witch wars of the 90s to an end in the state and bring this community back together as one pagan community. We agree to disagree. We don't have to like everybody. We don't have to like everything they do in their practice. We can look at them and think they're a fluffy bunny or the darkest evil. And believe me, I enjoy the title Voldemort. I will gladly keep the title. But we need to stop this and start coming together as a community because no one else is.
Okay. And Father Tom.
Do I have a cause? Wow. Yes. My main cause, I work two separate ministries that are combined. So I have to feed the hungry, clothe the naked. My main cause is to let people know paganism is not evil. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing anti-God about what we do. My biggest cause is education. Let's let people know who we are. Let's stand up. Let's be proud. And then that's when, we're going to start coming together more and more. When we have people that are understanding, we can come together. So the biggest pagan cause I have is getting the word out there. Hey, there's nothing wrong with us. We're not different. We may be a lot better than most of you, but that is beside the point. But yeah, it would be education.
And because I've learned so much from the women in my life, including that you always let the lady have the last word, Mo, your turn.
My cause is much in the line with the rest of the gentlemen on the panel, and probably every other pagan and witch I know, which is, just to give support to each other and one another. But mainly, it's really interesting. So the Masons have this thing that they say, the Masonic temple, which is, if you want to be a Mason, ask a Mason. And that seems so easy. But for a really, really long time, we did not have anyone to ask when we decided to walk this path. And so, like I earlier said, I just want to be that person and allow an open door policy for people to come and learn in any way they feel wrong. Like, I don't think I want to apply the word wrong to what we do, because we're probably the only people that don't do that. We give everybody that trust that they will take the teachings and do their best, and do a good job. And so if people want that teaching, I want to be the person that they can come to, feel comfortable, and know that they have a community that is healthy and whole. And I want to continue to build that. Not even like a community, but I would go so far as to call it a family. And I try to make meet everybody where they are. And so that's kind of my platform. I just really want no one to feel alone because they chose to be a witch. There's that got people killed for hundreds of years. Just that social isolation. And I don't want that to ever be the case, even though I know it's still very much alive today. Just having one small place where you can go where you're safe and understood, and you can have a conversation where nobody looks at you like you have two heads. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we are currently right on schedule for our next event.
Yeah.
So, Aeson, back to you.
Thank you, Father Tom, and thank you, Mo, for
Thank you.
joining us, and thanks, Joe, for coming in and moderating, because it's like we
Absolutely.
can't do both. Hopefully, I think we'll see Father Tom later, and
5:30.
Mo, of course, you are a Earth Magic. For anybody that wants to reach out to you, please check her out there, and y'all guys have a great day.
You too. See you in a bit.
All right.